Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from today. There were a million, and so to be honest, I'm not going to talk about all of them. I also had an intramural basketball game. I'm in college, if you didn't know, earlier tonight, and so there were just some games I really didn't even get to watch any of. Pacers Spurs is an example of that. Hawks Wizards I didn't get to see a lot of, so I won't be talking about those few games. Shout to Sabonis, he had a great performance in the Pacers game, and the Hawks were hitting shots pretty well. Trae Young had a great game, so shout to those two guys. The game that I really want to focus on in this video was probably the best game of the night, and that was the Chicago Bulls versus the Boston Celtics. Now, if I read you this, I can give you a million different stats that kind of explain just how bad of a collapse this game was by the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to do so. When we look at the scores, the Celtics outscored the Bulls by 1 in the first quarter, by 7 in the second quarter, and by 6 in the third. So going into the fourth quarter, it is a 14-point lead for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics ended up losing by 14 points. So the Bulls outscored the Celtics by 28 points in the fourth quarter. They went on a 38-9 run at one point in the fourth quarter. You want to know how many defensive rebounds the Celtics got in the fourth quarter? 0. Not a single one. It was a horrific collapse, and I don't want to just say that the Celtics collapsed because the reason they collapsed is because the Bulls are so good. The Bulls are super legit. So I'm going to focus on the Bulls first, and then we're going to talk about the Celtics kind of collapsing. But the Chicago Bulls are for real, and I tweeted out this picture. So there was this article, if you didn't know that, ESPN, they kind of like gauged some executives, some scouts, of course, anonymous, and asked them like a bunch of different questions about the offseason. And those scouts and executives said that the worst move of the offseason was DeMar DeRozan to the Chicago Bulls. And of course, that's stupid. I said it in my video. I dropped a video that got like 4,500 views that I guess the people in my Twitter comments didn't watch, but you should go watch it if you haven't either, where I talked about how good the Bulls were, how much I thought that they were going to be really good, how I love the DeRozan fit, I love Lonzo Ball, I thought Alex Caruso was a good pickup, and how I love the way that the lineup was fitting together, and how I thought the Bulls were a lot of people were sleeping on them. And I think that's been true all the way up until the season. I think people were still sleeping on them. Even me, myself, I thought it would take some time to adjust, and it just hasn't at all. The Bulls have been a well-oiled machine straight out the gate. And in that video, I talked about how much I liked the DeRozan move. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic move. He brings in some playmaking, he brings in some defense, and he's scoring the hell out of the ball right now. We'll talk about him a little more in a second. He was phenomenal. And so I tweeted out the picture of the executives picking DeMar DeRozan as like the worst move of the offseason. And some people were like, oh, hindsight bias, oh, whatever. No. Me and a lot of other people thought this was a great move. They loved it. I've been telling people how good I thought the Bulls were going to be. And so it's cool to see that they are as good as I thought they were going to be, even sooner than I thought they were going to be this good. I thought it would take some time to gel. It hasn't. They're 6-1. They've got the best record in the Eastern Conference at the moment. They're on top. And not only that, but throughout this game, they played great basketball. The Celtics looked kind of unstoppable. And down 14 in the fourth quarter, they dominated in every single facet of the game, led by DeMar DeRozan, the guy that apparently executives and a lot of Twitter people thought was an awful pickup for the Chicago Bulls. 37, 7-2. So far, if the season ended today, he might be the MVP because the Bulls are on top of the East and he's been phenomenal. DeMar DeRozan was just barely not an all-star last season. It's like people didn't watch him when they thought he wasn't going to fit with this team. It didn't make any sense. People didn't see the kind of player he was, the kind of playmaker, defender, how he was still a good scorer. It's like nobody watched DeMar DeRozan last season, and people are kind of just catching up now because they see him on a winning team. Maybe people just didn't watch the Spurs last season. I didn't watch a lot of Spurs, to be honest. But I'm glad people are seeing how good DeRozan is and how good this Bulls team is. 26-7 from Zach LaVine, 12-6-4 from Lonzo Ball, 9-3-6 from Alex Caruso, 14 from Ayo Dosunmu. Javonte Green has stepped up pretty well in the absence of Patrick Williams playing the power forward position. 11-10-9, a near triple-double from Nikola Vucevic. This Bulls team is on fire right now, and they're being led by DeMar DeRozan, the guy that a lot of people slept on as a pickup and a lot of people thought was the worst move of the offseason, apparently, because people, even when I showed the receipts of that picture, people were like, oh, whatever, hindsight is 2020. It was clearly a good move. So shout out to Bulls fans. I'm in a Bulls group chat on Twitter. They're awesome. Go check out my guy Artur's fan club if you haven't. He's a big Bulls fan if you want to see more Bulls content. But it's just cool. The Bulls are really good. They're completely legit, 100%. And they're even better, like I said, than even I thought they were going to be at this point in the season. So cool to see that the Bulls are proving pretty much everybody wrong, even people like me who believed in them from the start, the people who didn't believe in the DeMar DeRozan move, the people that thought that Lonzo Ball was a dumb move. Bulls are proving everyone wrong, and they're doing it in pretty dramatic fashion. For the Celtics side of the ball, you heard the stats I mentioned. Let's go through some stat lines for some players. 20 from Jason Tatum. Al Horford had a pretty good game. He had 20, 10, and 3. He's been great for them so far this season. 28 from Jaylen Brown. I believe he only took like one shot in the fourth quarter. Marcus Smart with 16. Like, this doesn't sound like they lost, but they just could not stop the Bulls whatsoever. And as soon as they hit that fourth quarter, they went cold. They couldn't hit anything. It's like they just fell asleep and then woke up and they're like, oh my God, we have to play basketball now. They fell so far behind. They just kind of like were content with winning 3 quarters. It's like they didn't even care about the fourth quarter, the way that the Bulls stormed back. And all of this culminates in a quote from Marcus Smart saying after the game that he's like, I just want to play basketball. Tatum and Brown, they really don't want to pass the ball right now. He said he knows they're super talented. This wasn't like him calling them out and saying that they suck and they need to pass the ball or anything, but he was clearly frustrated with the way that they've been playing. And he's right to be frustrated. The Celtics team, their offense a lot of times reminds me of watching the Thunder for a very, very long time. With Katie and Russ, a lot of times we just fell into, we have these amazing 2 talents, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Not quite the same level of talents maybe, but great talents. We have these 2 great talents in Russ and KD. Let's just let them ISO for like every single possession. The Celtics seem to do that, especially when they have to get a bucket, and it's happened a few times in these overtime games that they've had, and teams sniff that out quickly, try and force someone else to beat them with a shot, and they just can't hit the shot, or they like turn it over, or there's some like weird, funky, awful play. The Celtics have just they can't close games right now. They don't seem to know how to create offense once teams start to hone in on Tatum and Brown, and maybe that is part of their fault of them not getting to the ball to the other guys. Maybe that is part of their fault. Maybe it's on Ime Udoka, who, starting as a coach, 2-5 is not the record the Celtics team wanted to have coming into this. Like, in your first 7 games, I thought the Celtics were going to be much better than this. Tatum has kind of struggled to start the season. Jaylen Brown's been inconsistent. This roster is far too talented to be where they are. And it feels like that the talent isn't being utilized in the way it needs to be, whether that's a fit between the players and it's chemistry and they'll figure it out, whether it's Ime Udoka. The Celtics need to figure out quick, because right now they're trending downward very, very quickly. And if they don't figure things out, there's going to be some kind of like players only meeting. The Celtics are under a lot of pressure right now to perform. They brought in a new coach. Brad Stevens, new general manager, made these big moves in the offseason. A lot of people have kind of contributed to this team to try and make them better than what they've been in the past. And to start the season, that's just not been the case. There is no excuse for blowing a 14-point fourth quarter lead, especially when you end up losing by 14. You cannot get outscored by 28 points in the fourth quarter of a game for a team that wants to be a contender. You have 2 great players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. A lot of great role players. It's inexcusable. You can't collapse like that. One of the worst collapses I've seen in a long time, and the Celtics should be embarrassed. Thunder Clippers. Speaking of collapses, the Thunder had this game, it looked like wrapped up. They were up by like 9 pretty late in the game, and then the Clippers hit like 4 or 5 threes in a row. Paul George really took over. Thunder didn't have Lou Dort tonight, and that was very evident with the way that Paul George took over. We didn't have a defensive stopper for him, and the Clippers end up winning by 5. This game was kind of a wash with the whole tank thing, because either the Thunder win and the Clippers pick gets a little bit better. If you don't know, the Thunder have the Clippers pick unprotected, which is a great thing to see with the way the Clippers have started this season, and the Thunder, of course, have their own pick, so losing does make their pick better. There were some pretty good performances in this game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 28-7-2. He's going to be an all-star, and if he isn't, I'm going to raise hell at the NBA office. Josh Giddey, 15-5-7. He continues to look so poised, especially in the fourth quarter. He took over. I think he had 6 or 8 of his 15 points in that fourth quarter, shooting really well, hitting a mid-range over Paul George, he just looks so fluid in everything he does. He's so poised for a rookie 6 games into his career. I can't speak highly enough of the way that he's played so far. He had some great defense as well, forcing a jump ball, getting a couple of timely steals. Josh Giddey, is phenomenal, and him and Shea are going to be one of the best backcourts in the league at some point down the line. Darius Bazley had 15 and 6. The problem is he had 7 turnovers and some super crucial plays at the end of the game that really kind of just put things out of reach for the Thunder, including a kick ball violation where he purposely tried to kick the ball away, and that resulted in the shot clock getting reset to 14 seconds, forcing the Thunder to foul rather than just trying to play it out and go for a 3 at the end of the game. He also had a timely turnover, kind of just ran into the defense and turned the ball over towards the end. There were some bad plays, and that's kind of what Darius Bazley has been so far this season. He's had some bright moments. He has moments where it's like, oh, he's hitting his shots. He had a great block on Paul George in this game. He played some solid defense throughout it. It's just the turnovers, the plays where it's like, what are you doing? He's got to limit those like greatly. They have to work with him on those plays because those are the things that are really going to stunt his development and prevent him from becoming the player that maybe he could become otherwise. 9 from Pokusevski. I would like to see him get more minutes. He only played 15. It's hard. The Thunder have a lot of players they want to play. Like I mentioned, Paul George kind of took over with 32, 9, and 7. And outside of him, nobody was super impressive. Luke Kennard had 14. Isaiah Hartenstein had 12 rebounds, so I guess shouts out to them. But overall, the Clippers, not a great win facing a Thunder team without Ludwig Stort, but it is one to kind of get their rhythm back together, kind of build confidence maybe, and maybe they can build off of this. Sixers Trailblazers, speaking of teams that should have won games, the Portland Trailblazers losing by 10 to the Sixers without Joel Embiid or Tobias Harris. Nobody's missing for the Blazers. So that's where the Blazers are at right now. They made Andre Drummond look like he was Nikola Jokic. He had 14, 15, and 7 assists, 23 from Seth Curry, including 6 rebounds and 5 assists. The Seth Curry for Josh Richardson trade might be one of the worst trades in recent memory with how good Seth Curry has been this season. And since he got to Philly overall, his fit is so much better on this team. The Dallas Mavericks got like nothing when they trade away Josh Richardson other than Moses Brown. Just awful trade by the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know why they did it. 21 from Georges Niang, who has been a phenomenal backup power forward for them. I really liked that pickup when they picked him up. They needed a spacer and just someone else who could be competent as a big. Really though, once again, shout to Drummond. 14 and 15 in Joel Embiid's absence. They just needed some center to come in and play occasional like starting minutes when Joel Embiid sits for rest or like injury management. And when he plays backup center, he's been solid so far this season. It was a good move. For the Blazers, once again, Dame can't seem to hit a shot. He started this game 2 for 11 at one point. He did have 27 and 10 assists, so overall, he was close to a triple-double. It was a decent game from him. He just can't seem to hit shots. 20 from CJ McCollum, 7 from Yusuf Nurkic, 0 from Robert Covington. There's just no depth really on this team. Anthony Simons had 17, but like they're bench guys. Everyone who played double-digit minutes coming off the bench. You had Anthony Simons with 17, then you had Nasir Little with 4 points in 20 minutes, 7 points for Larry Nance Jr. in 18 minutes, 0 points for Cody Zeller in 11 minutes, and 6 for Tony Snell in 10 minutes. That's not going to cut it. It's just not. Yusuf Nurkic has to be better. The Blazers are kind of stuck, and it reached the point where the Sixers fans were chanting, "We want Dame," and at halftime, the Sixers broadcast was discussing Damian Lillard trades. So that's where the Blazers and Sixers are both at the moment. For the Nuggets and Grizzlies, really what I want to talk about in this game, first of all, shout out to the Grizzlies getting a big win. 26, 7, and 8 for John Morant, who continues to make his most improved player case. 11 for Desmond Bane, who's having a good season. 12 from Xavier Tillman. Just overall, some pretty good performances around the board. But Michael Porter Jr. has been bad. Really, really bad to start this season. A lot of people picked him to win the Most Improved Player award, and it made sense. Without Jamal Murray, they needed him to step up. You've got Nikola Jokic, the best passing big man ever, one of the greatest passers ever, period. At center, he should get Michael Porter Jr. great looks. MPJ cannot hit a shot to save his life right now. He just looks lost. It's like last season he had one of the most efficient shooting stretches of all time towards the end of the season, and it's like it just all disappeared like overnight. It's super weird to see. Maybe it's the same effect that's happening to a lot of other guys like Damian Lillard, who we just talked about, but Michael Porter Jr., he has to be way, way better. They just gave him a max contract. They gave him a bag, and if his shooting stroke just disappeared out of nowhere, that contract's going to look horrific down the line. I don't think it's gone. I think he's going to become a solid shooter again, but it's awful right now. Magic and Timberwolves, not a lot I want to say about this one. The Magic did get a win. The Timberwolves, this is a bad loss for them. They have to do better than this. I want to give a shout out to 2 guys. Cole Anthony, who had 31, 9, and 8, and is looking like, once again, a most improved player candidate, and is looking like the potential point guard or shooting guard, depending on which position you want to put Jalen Suggs at, of the future. And Franz Wagner with 28, 4, and 2. He has been a phenomenal rookie that I feel like nobody is talking about. He had a poster over like 3 guys in this game. The Magic have some fun guys. 15 and 14 from Wendell Carter. Their young core is looking pretty solid. Mo Bamba's had a decent start to the season. If all of these guys kind of pan out the way that it seems like they might, the Magic really have something going on here. I'm going to wrap it up kind of quick with those last couple games because we're like 15 minutes in. Raptors and Knicks. The Raptors getting a big win by 9 points over the Knicks. OG Anunoby with 36 points. This is the game that a lot of people thought he was capable of coming into the season, why a lot of people picked him as their most improved. 26 from Gary Trent Jr. and 17 from Fred VanVleet. On the Knicks side of the ball, RJ Barrett with 27 points and 6 rebounds. He has been phenomenal this year. He's shooting way more efficiently. He's playing great defense on pretty much everyone he plays. So this might be the RJ Barrett breakout season. And finally, the Cavaliers and Hornets. 30 ball by LaMelo Ball with 37 and 6. And then you had Jared Allen getting 24 and 16. Evan Mobley continues to be the best rookie so far with 15 and 10. He's been phenomenal. Like, amazing defense. If you haven't watched my video about Evan Mobley kind of breaking down his game a little bit, make sure to go check that out. That was one of my favorite videos that I've made, and I thought I made a lot of good points. I've been telling y'all about Evan Mobley. I've said it going into the draft that I thought he was going to be a superstar one day, that he was perhaps my favorite player coming into the draft, and he's proving me very right so far. So those are my thoughts on all the games, or most of the games from tonight. Like I said, there were a lot. Let me know what your thoughts are, specifically on the Bulls and Celtics thing. Do you agree that the Bulls are legit? What do the Celtics need to do to really turn things around? If you made it to this point, drop me a DeRozan is a stud or DeRozan is still nice in the comment section below to let me know that you made it this far. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.